Hey, I'm Canadian rocker Tommy Gunn, and you got more Joe Tilley sports coming up.
He's the top road course and sports car driver this country has ever produced. Ronfellows joins us on the program, and Priscilla Gagne, Paralympic silver medalist and Canadian flag bearer. Joe Tilley Sports coming up. Welcome to the program. We've got another dandy for you, and we're going to start with some auto racing. This man was born in Windsor, now lives in Mississauga. He is the king of the road course, has driven in 65 races in various NASCAR series, two-time winner of NASCAR's Camping Truck World Series, four-time winner of the NASCAR Nationwide Series, co-winner of the 24 Hours of Daytona, three-time winner at the 24 Hour of Le Mans, two-time winner 12 Hours of Sebring, most NASCAR wins of any non-American, co-owner of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. He had a car named after him. He is a member of the Order of Canada. Whoa, that's pretty impressive. Ron Fellows, welcome to the program, buddy. That's a lot.
Thank you. I'm old, that's why.
Yeah.
How are you, Joe?
Well, you're old. I'm doing good. It's really good to see you. You're looking
great.
fantastic. You look
too.
like you can certainly still hold your own on the racetrack. That's no question about that. Well, and I'm sure you do too.
Well, in my early 60s, I'm not nearly as brave, nor do I see quite as well. But I'm within a few pounds of fighting weight, so there is that. But I'm just not as brave as I once was.
Yeah, I get that. Brave and maybe just a little bit smarter too, right?
between that and the mortality gene kicking in, it's a factor for sure. Yeah.
After a while, when you're young and invincible, that changes a little bit as we get older, doesn't it? I want to talk about how you got started in racing. Let's go back to the very beginning, Ron, and tell us how you got your start in the sport.
Oh boy. Well, the influence for me was my uncle. My uncle and his friend, they were involved in rally, and we moved to. My dad was an Anglican minister, and we moved around a little bit when we were younger. Settled on. This is like 1969. We settled in Bramalea, Brampton, and I went to the Canadian Grand Prix. That was the first car race I went to, was the Canadian Grand Prix in '69, and it was just absolutely magical to see the sights, the sounds, the smells. And I was, I've said it numerous times, but if an 11-year-old can have an epiphany, I did. So that was right. It was wanting to be part of it, and then trying to understand how to do it. It's certainly easier if you're playing hockey or other stick and ball sports, but certainly understanding the process of getting in a position to want to make a living as a racing driver. It started in karting, as just about every kid now does. They just start a lot younger than I did. And progressed from there. It was certainly lots of hard knocks along the way, financially, I would say. But karting was the first step, and then Formula 1600. Then I went broke, racing Formula cars, and along came in 1986. I'd been out of it for probably 4 or 5 years, just paying off debt, working. And then along came the Players GM Series in 1986, along with Rothman's Porsche, X40 Formula 2000. The sort of the tobacco sponsorship era for Canadian racing was really, that was the height of it, 86 through essentially the early to mid 90s. and that was the big break for me, to be able to get into a level of the sport that was affordable, marketable, and also a huge challenge from a competition standpoint.
Yeah, you absolutely dominated that Players Challenge series, and of course the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup series as well. Some really great times for racing in
Yeah.
Canada, no doubt about it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and Mosport was a big part of that. You mentioned your first Formula One race. That would have been a Mosport, right? That was, and
Yes, it
all the
was.
big names
Yes,
were
I
there,
sat.
and I know
Yeah,
Gilles Villeneuve was one of your hero, and yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as a budding racing driver, I followed Formula One religiously, along with Can-Am, Trans Am, but certainly Formula One, and with Gilles, he just had an incredible skill and gift, and was so charismatic behind the wheel, and yeah, he was somebody that you certainly admired, and certainly his skill level. We lost him far too young, but he's still, we were, I think about the level of popularity he still maintains. We were in. The first time I went to the Italian Grand Prix with my wife and a couple of friends, 2011, I believe, and we did a tour of the Fiorano area, and still seeing so much presence of Gilles Villeneuve, so much talk about Gilles still. And this was 2011, and he died in 1982, but still revered to this day. It's particularly in Italy, as well as Canada.
Right. Right. Well, he was the face of Ferrari, so that was he was the guy, right? So, now you also had success. Of course, we talked about that in the Rothmans Porsche Turbo Cup, the series on CTV. I used to do that series for CTV. We were able to dig up an incident that I want to run in, Vic, if we can. It was this incident with Uli Bieri. That couldn't have been much fun. It was on the Okay, so do you remember the incident? Your car caught fire. And
Yeah.
it must have been a little bit of frightening. I want to tell you to talk a little bit about that, because that's, obviously the driver's greatest fear is getting into one of those crashes and then, having fire
Right.
on top of it. Here we go.
Yeah, it was the Moosehead Grand Prix in Halifax. Yeah, I just passed Uli, and I don't know if I was running maybe P2. And he lost his brakes, and it just used me to stop. It had no place to go, and I went backwards into the concrete wall. And I don't remember a whole lot. I had a decent concussion. I remember seeing this footage and no recollection of it. The
Right.
first time I sort of came to was in the hospital, and all I saw was all this fire extinguisher stuff on me, and I had no idea where I was. And there was I forget, there was another competitor who'd ridden in the ambulance, I guess, and I'm like, where are we? Oh, you're in Halifax. You're in Halifax. What are we doing in Halifax? Couldn't remember a thing about the weekend, and it was a concussion predominantly, but yeah, certainly the fear of fire, but as you can see, it got put up pretty quick. But and then John Graham, John Graham stopping, and I don't know if it was John that came to the hospital, but John jokes about saving my life. And I'm certainly grateful for him to get me out. Yeah, and I still give Uli hell for running into me with no brakes.
Yeah, those were good times. But I mean, I guess, is that as close to you as you ever came to hurting yourself, or in a situation where you? Because that wasn't the only crash you were in.
No, I've had a few. That was the thing about that was going in backwards saved probably a more serious injury, but because it was a concrete wall, it was from, I don't know how fast we were going, 90 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, and then such a short stop. That's where the concussion came from, and that was the part that was probably the most frightening. Was essentially being out of it for a couple of months, and knowing what we know now about concussions, I think it would have been treated differently back in 1990. But the lack of recognition for a few weeks, it was a bit scary from that standpoint. But it's an area that we talk about today. Concussions and what are what the protocols are, and certainly had a couple, but no broken bones. Been upside down once, and been backwards into tire walls and concrete walls a number of times. But again, essentially the Porsche did its job in terms of dissipating the energy in the back, other than the car catching fire. But and again, it was put out pretty quick.
And does your attitude change in racing after that? Did that slow you down? Did it make you think that I got to be more careful after? It didn't change your driving style at all. I'm guessing that it probably didn't.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's part of the risk, that the risk factor that you take. But at that age, it was. I was more concerned about the level of my ability to get back to 100%, to be able to get back racing. It was late in the season, that event, and my recollection is that I don't think I raced again that year, because it took a couple of months to get all the wires sort of reconnected. But the risk is also part of the attraction, and the being able to drive a car right on its edge and be good at it, and then the most fun part for me has always been the racing itself, playing that high speed chess game. The drivers today will also, I'm sure, say that the most challenging circuits for them are the ones where the risk reward is higher.
That brings that exciting element into it, no doubt about it. But let's talk about where one of your most successful tracks, obviously, Watkins Glen. You won the Truck Series in 1997 and 99. Your first truck win there was in 1997 for Billy Hess, number 48 AER manufacturing team. Then you won again a couple of years later with Nemco. What was it about truck racing that you particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, I was under contract with Chevy then, starting in the fall of '94, and 97 was an opportunity where we had Chevrolet had pulled out of the Trans Am series, and we were looking at the opportunity to potentially take a Corvette to Le Mans. So it was sort of early stages. So I ended up getting an opportunity to drive a number of different series, World Sports Car in the Ferrari 333 that Remo Ferri owns here in Toronto, and then obviously the Truck Series, and back then it was the Busch Series, and obviously the Cup Series. The attraction I have with the trucks were they were closer to a Cup car than what is now the Xfinity Series. They had big power, not a whole lot of downforce, the same wheelbase, and I thought, if I'm gonna race, do any road races in Cup in the future, this would be the perfect place to get my feet wet, and it was a great opportunity. It was fun to be part of it, even at a part-time level. And that win there in '97 was what propelled interest to get hired for what was then the Busch Series, now Xfinity Series, and also the Cup Series, and that carried on right through into the. I guess what was the last time I did a Cup race? 2013.
Right. Still.
And it was good money too.
2013.
Yeah.
Right. That's another
Yes.
incentive, isn't it?
I can tell you.
Let's talk about.
Well, 97, that truck win paid just under $50,000 a win. And I think
in 97.
in 97, which is incredible. And the event didn't. Billy Hess built the truck. We bored an engine. We probably had, it probably cost us 30 or 35 to do the race, and so that would be a net gain. This is we're liking this NASCAR stuff. but I think
it was good.
The best part was getting an opportunity to after running with Billy to race for Joe Nemechek and work with Brian Patty at Nemco, which was the next year, and for several years after that. Joe ran a great family team, and getting the opportunity to be part of some Xfinity Series wins, and we Nemco, we put together a deal in '99 to run the Cup race, and it was essentially after the Xfinity race in June. Back then they had them split up. There was the Xfinity Series, which is now called, ran at Watkins Glen in June, and Cup was in August. And I forget what the circumstances, but we ended up finishing second, and we had some kind of an issue, and Dale Jr. beat us, and our sponsor then, Bully Hill Vineyards, Lillian Taylor, came into the motorhome after, and she was, Brian Patty, our crew chief, we're just like, can't believe this happened, and P2, and she looks at us and says, you guys should come back in August with a Cup car. Okay. So Brian and Nemco set about building a Cup car, and Billy Hess built the chassis for that as well, and we ended up second, but it was an incredible effort. For I was virtually unknown in the NASCAR community. Nemco was a small family-run operation, and for them to field a Cup car and to be successful was a pretty cool story. And Jeff Gordon won the race in '99, but it was closer than it probably should have been. Yeah.
Well, we do have some footage from it. Let's talk about the Xfinity Series. That the first Busch win that you had at Watkins Glen, June 28th, 1998. You led the most laps in the Lysol 200. After all, Boris said was a pole sitter, but he spun on the first lap. You took the lead, led 54 of 82 laps, and of course you would go on to win it, holding off Michael McLaughlin. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, the missing out on pole was was a bit of a head scratcher, but we knew we had a really good race car, and the best part about that car and working with Nemco, the team, and particularly with Brian Patty, we focused on Brian was able to quickly understand what it was I needed based on the feedback, and we really focused on getting the car to work really well through turn one up through the S's, and that was our advantage. We were just bad fast through turn one and up through the S's, and could stop really well. But that was the fun part of working with Brian, and he was in charge of all the strategy and was brilliant at that. But just a really, really smart kid at the time. And it was awesome to get that win. It was for a Canadian kid who lived 4 hours away. This was a great, very cool moment.
Well, you had all the success at Watkins Glen. It's funny. I was at a boxing show yesterday, and Steve Beaupre, who's a big former fighter and big NASCAR fan, talked about going to Watkins Glen and watching you race there all the time. And
Oh,
you mentioned you finished to a guy named second to a guy named Dale Earnhardt Jr. Uh, he passed you on the final lap on the restart. Now, then the year after that, once again, Watkins Glen. I think that weekend you finished third in the Truck Series the night before, and then you won the race that day.
yeah.
What was it about Watkins Glen that suited you so well?
Fast corners, and
Mm.
very similar to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And we can certainly digress into the quality of racing venues up here, but I've long maintained, and others will also say the same thing, that if you can go fast at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and win there, you can go fast and win anywhere. And certainly the high speed corners, Watkins Glen suited my style. It did in the Trans Am series, and certainly getting an opportunity to work with some great Chevy teams in NASCAR was a privilege as well, and getting an opportunity to compete at a high level, and certainly the I'd forgotten that they ended up moving the truck race with the Xfinity series back then. So there was a few years there where we were doing both. We'd do the truck race Saturday and then Xfinity on Sunday, but I never managed to win them both. And certainly in '99, it was an adventure. The truck race, we ended up having to borrow somebody's truck because we didn't have the points to get in the race. So it typically, with the large fields, you had to qualify on time. Well, I had a mechanical failure in qualifying and didn't get a time. So we ended up having to rent. There was a guy who was essentially a start and park, and it was the number 7 truck, and I can't remember the owner driver's name, but we put our engine and transmission in that car. This was the Nemco team, and started at the back and ended up third. But we had no end of troubles, but it was still a pretty fortunate to end up in P3. But again, go back to the the Xfinity series on Sunday and winning that again was sort of made up for it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, made up for it. I say you're starting at the back of the pack in a rented truck, and you finished third. I'd say that's pretty impressive, right? That's
Yeah.
not too shabby. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not too shabby.
there were some moments. I came down. We started at the back more than once. At one point, I came down pit lane because I thought Brian had called me into the pits, and I heard pit, and we were having all kinds of radio issues, and pit lane was closed.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm driving down pit lane, reception improves, and Brian says, "What are you doing here? Pit lane's closed. I thought you told me to pit."
Oh, that's what he's trying to tell you.
So the rules are, if you pit when the pit lane is closed, you go to the back again. So back to the rear again we went, and it was just quite an adventure. But good fun, good practice passing. Yeah.
Right. So you win the NASCAR race that year, then in the Billy Hill Vineyards Chevrolet, and then the next year you win again. So that's 3 wins in 4 races, and the last time there you're 3 years and 3 times in 4 years. And the last time there was great because we looked at that viz, and your wife and your daughter were there to take it in, and the announcers were talking about how you owned the racetrack. That was a lot of fun. I mean, tell us about that experience.
Yeah, and I think daughter Lindsay sang the Canadian national anthem too. So it was that was
Wow.
probably the most nervous I was all weekend, was her singing the national anthem. But yeah, no, it was it was a shame that 2001 was was the last Xfinity Series race up until, I think it was a good 10 years before they went back, around that. And they ended up moving it several years later to be part of the Cup weekend. But that was sort of the end of an era where you had the June event, the June NASCAR event at Watkins Glen was both the Truck Series as well as Xfinity Series. So it was super satisfying to be, to win again, and again they were always trying different things. I think in 2001, I recall, I think Brian Patty and Joe Nemechek had sourced a different engine builder, and again, just continuing to try to evolve as a team, even though we were doing essentially one race a year. But that was a big focus, was building on the success, and it was a popular event.
Now, 2008, a rainy day in Montreal, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, your fourth nationwide win. And we catch up with Ron Fellows, a younger Ron Fellows, slightly, in Victory Lane. Let's pick that up, Vic.
When we return in a very soggy but a very happy day for Ron Fellows. Stay with us. Second best was Scott Pruitt with 13. Take a look at the unofficial results across the top of your screen. And now we'll go into our temporary victory lane with Mike Massaro.
And Ron Fellows just getting his composure right now, gathering his thoughts. He's a winner again in the Nationwide Series for the fourth time. You can see the emotion on his face. This is a track where he has wanted to win his entire career. Gilles Villeneuve was his hero. He's finally won here. Fellows climbing from the car right now, and what a wild day. How would you describe it?
That is difficult. I mean, it's, we've had a little bit of that in over in France with the Corvette in Le Mans, but first, Dale Jr., thank you, GoDaddy.com, Chevrolet, and the fans here. They stuck it out the whole time. That's just amazing. These guys are great. This was good fun. Now I got to try to beg Dale Jr. to let me run next week.
You told me earlier in the weekend you used to come here as a fan, as an impressionable young race car driver. What's it mean for you to win here?
Well, to win, Gilles was one of my heroes, and I didn't wear the T-shirt during the race just out of respect for Jacques. But I got it back in the hauler. This is incredible. I'm going to lose it. Honey, come here. Yes, get over here. I don't know how many more of these we're going to have.
He's calling for his wife and family to come in this celebration. And obviously a lot of emotion here in Victory Lane, Marty.
And I think this is a celebration that is going to go a long time into the night. As we take you Saturday, 2:30 Eastern on ABC for the NASCAR Nationwide Series next week.
Yeah, and how was that celebration, Ron? Did it go well into the night?
I think it may have.
Yeah.
That brings back some great memories. Yeah, and I had I really enjoyed racing in Trois-Rivières over the years as well. It's a street course that started in the 60s, and the years that I raced there in the Trans Am Series, being essentially the lone Canadian, the French Canadian fans in Trois-Rivières treated me so well, and I'd been at it was in that era, probably early 90s, that I ended up going to the building of museum at Berthierville, Quebec, and I bought a handful of T-shirts, and I wore a Gilles Villeneuve T-shirt. I had a few different colors, but I wore them for years underneath my racing suit, and still have them. But to win there. Again, I was 2008, so I was 50 years old, and which is the reference to, I don't know how many more we're going to get of these, but the opportunity the conditions were just horrible, and certainly in 2007 the year before, we'd had an incredible similar experience at Le Mans. They didn't stop the race, but we were behind a safety car for a fair amount of time. So again, that the experience of racing in heavy rain, I had that, and certainly the Corvette team, that was a great opportunity to continue to develop the craft even at a late age. And typically if it was raining with the Corvette team, let's put the Canuck in. So.
Right. This guy knows how to drive it on the wet road. You Trans Am Series, you were incredibly successful. 19 wins, 95 races. Sports cars, you touched earlier about that Ferrari 333 SP, and one of your wins in that car came in the IMSA GT Championship, Mosport in 1997. A home win for you. You surprised a lot of people there when you grabbed the pole. Led pretty much the entire way, your first IMSA victory, which was very cool. And you got a chance to drive that Ferrari here again some 20 years later. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I was up in the office in our event center, and Remo was on site and he says, "Hey, I've got the 333 erased, and come on down and have a go." So I just I just did a couple of laps, and he still owes me more laps. now that I'm in my early 60s and in better shape. But no, it was awesome to get a chance to just do a few laps in the same car. And it was quite a few years before I actually learned that Remo owned the car. But as a Ferrari dealer, that was the deal back in '97. There was a U.S. team, but Remo owned the car. My teammate back then, Rob Morgan, did a great job, and getting the pole and in a win. It was spectacular. What an awesome car! It had the 4-liter Ferrari motor, and it was even 20 years later. Everything came back in terms of the muscle memory on the shifter and the shift lights and for a tall guy being 6'2", that car fit me perfectly, which was unusual for generally sort of open cockpit cars. But I remember doing turn 4 flat in qualifying, flat out from turn 3 all the way to turn 5, and we're going through turn 3 now. And as I'm coming up to it, going probably half the speed, I was like, how the heck did I ever do that? It was in '97. The track was 10 feet narrower, and anyway, it was such an awesome car to drive, and that engine was the Formula One engine. Oh, just hearing that 12-cylinder, wow. And the Ferrari had taken the 3.5-liter Formula One engine, and that the rules had changed in, I think, maybe '95, where they'd gone to a 3-liter. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it was just,
there's the visit of the win.
Yep. Yeah, that was so cool. What an awesome car. Yeah. Oh, the stash. That was so neat. So cool of Remo to call up and, hey, is Ronnie there? Come on down and take this out for a couple of laps. And 20 years later, it was such a cool car. And again, the engine, that was a car that weighed 900 kilos, had a 4-liter, which was essentially the stroked Formula One engine from that era, and made 750 horsepower. Just an amazing car, and so much fun.
750 horses. Wow, that's a lot of power.
Well, it made a lot of downforce. Yeah, it made a lot of downforce too. So I forget what we were doing. Right. One low 11s or one high 110s. Something like that. It was it was a lot of fun, and certainly the Andy Evans that owned the team, that the resources were there. We got back then we had a test day on the Thursday, so I got plenty of time to figure out how to drive it, and certainly knowledge of the track didn't hurt. But the car just seemed to suit me, and just enjoyed it immensely, and ended up getting an opportunity to run at Daytona in '98 with Max Pappas, Bob Wallach, and Yannick Dalmas, and in the Ferrari at the Rolex 24, and we ended up as a team. Yannick put the car on pole, and it was our race to lose, and we did. We ended up blowing up quite late in the race, but just again, getting an opportunity, and seeing it create additional opportunities is part of what you have to do as a racing driver. There's that when you don't have the resources and you get an opportunity, you got to deliver, because you don't know how many more you're going to get, and it was a big part of my career was getting limited run opportunities, whether it was the Trans Am Series in the late '80s and early '90s with Jack Roush, and then getting hooked up with Chevy. I managed to win a Trans Am race in my third, fourth, or fifth time, thanks to the support of Jim O'Donnell and McKinsey Financial. Had the faith in me to help make that happen, and that really is what led to racing, making a living in sports cars from then right through into the 2000s. And
Well, I'd say that you definitely made the most of the opportunities you got. You were just always up there up front. And of course, what's really pretty cool is they ended up building a car in your honor, the Corvette C7 Z06 Z here in Canada. And we're going to take another spin around Mosport Park with Ron Fellows in the Corvette C7 Z06. Pretty quick car, a pretty quick lap. Tell us about this car, how it handled the track, and what was it like to have a car named after you?
Yeah, so the car that they created in 2007 was the C6 model, but it was the Z06, and they'd never done a model named after an individual, and when they called me about it, I'm like, really? You want to do a limited edition? Okay, and how cool! And so they debuted the Ron Fellows edition Z06 at the Chicago Auto Show in February of 2007, and did 300 and I guess I should know this. 399 editions, and it was I have edition number 3. Bob McGraw, my longtime sponsor, AER Manufacturing, he has number 2, and I think Lillian Taylor from Bully Hill, she's got one as well. But yeah, I remember sitting with Bob Lutz in the summer at a charity event, and he sort of leaned over and he said, "Congratulations on the Z06 special edition. They sold out quick. Congratulations." And he was all about the sales. So,
right, of course.
Forget about the name on it. So it was obviously unique, and yeah, that was a lap with the 7th generation car, which probably has 200 more horsepower, and now we're into the 8th generation mid-engine Corvette. But that C7, which was the next generation Z06 from my edition, just an incredible car. And I think do we see a lap time on that, like a 128?
126.
Yeah,
126.9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not sure I could do that now.
All right, eh?
But anyway, yeah, that's a pretty sporty lap for a production car. Yeah, no, 100%. So certainly the history that I've had with GM and their racing division since '95, and continue to this day with our Corvette school in Nevada, and continue to work as an ambassador for Chevrolet on both sides of the border. the seeing the evolution of the Corvettes, both on the track and certainly on the street, from when we first raced the C5 and now we're at the 8th generation car, which I have not. With the 8th generation race car, I have not driven yet, but I'm told I will get an opportunity at some point just to try it. Having driven the mid-engine street car, it's just phenomenal, and cool to be part of that development process, and being a small part of it by providing Corvette owners the opportunity at our school in Nevada.
So let's talk about more sport and how things are going and where you guys are at and how you've been affected by the pandemic and what do you see happening? What's scheduled? What's scheduled?
Yeah, it's certainly COVID as the global pandemic has affected every single business, and we're in the entertainment business and have pretty much been shut down for 2 seasons, and we've got track rental generally, with both years, 2020 and 2021 we were closed, and then we're allowed to open sort of mid-June both years, and with COVID protocols, but certainly the track rental, but no events for no big spectator events for 2 years. We had Labor Day weekend. We had a limited spectators. We had the Canadian NASCAR series, as well as FEL sports cars, Sports 2000 or the Radicals, F1600. So it was a decent a decent spectator weekend. But the border will continue to be a challenge going forward, and with respect to vaccination, and that's going to be, we'll see how that affects us in 2022. But certainly having that no IMSA sports car event for 2 years in a row, and the Chevy Silverado 250 Truck Series event, it's difficult, and you hope that we get to a point where we can do that, but it's the limitations right now going forward will be how do the two countries differ in terms of COVID protocols, and vaccination will be key.
Well, I'm hoping we are moving in that direction to clarifying that, and getting to the end of this really is what it boils down to. And I think I guess we just got to keep doing what we got to do to get through it, and make sure we do our part, individuals.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But as we're the frustrating part for us is this is 2021 is 10 years of ownership. My wife Linda, Carl Fidani, and this was also our 60th anniversary of the facility. So I think hopefully in 2022 we'll somehow come up with something that's magical around. It's the 61st year, and the track opened in 1961. So, but hopefully 2022 we will get back to some level of normalcy. It's still, if at the end of the 2020 season, I would have thought that I would have bet that we'd be in a position to be back to more of a level of normalcy in 2021, and we're getting there. But it's certainly a much bigger issue than any of us imagine, and I think that goes for everybody on the planet. And thankfully, we've got highly dedicated healthcare workers, first responders that have just continue to work tirelessly, and thank you to all of them. It's selfless work, and continues, and we're into the second year of it. So
yeah, well, it's a family affair for you with Linda. You talked about your daughter, and your son Sam is racing now too, and it'd be nice to see him out of Mosport competing, right? And I think he is from time to time in the Pinty Series. Am I right?
Yeah, he started at the second race, and this is his first season trying the Pinty Series cars, and it's been fun so far. He's in the deep end. Doesn't have a lot of experience, but he's learning and improving every race, and there's some really good talent there. And they look like fun cars to drive, and Dad might want to try one just for the heck of it.
That would be good.
I don't know about racing it, but I like to drive one just to see what they're like.
Yeah. Well, there was another guy I remember who didn't have a lot of experience and actually took some time off to go, I think it was do some pipe fitting and some other things that you've done over the years, and came back to racing and did all right for himself. You did all right.
You.
So I want to thank you for being on the show, Ron. It's been a pleasure. And listen, as a guest on Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, we've got some great clothing here for you from Classic Imports, Italian clothing.
Awesome.
You can hop in that Ferrari and feel right at home. And thanks
Corvette,
again, buddy. Good luck with most sport. Yeah, the Corvette. Yeah, that's right. Well, Ferrari on the occasional day when you're driving the Ferrari. Yes. But it looks good in the Corvette too. Believe me. And if you haven't had a chance to get it to most sport, get out there. It's a beautiful gym. Yes. It's a fantastic track. It's a lot of fun. It's got some great history, and you guys have done a real good job. Repairing, fixing it up, and getting it to where it's at now, and it's beautiful. And good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it's time to meet our next guest, ladies and gentlemen. She was born in Granby, Quebec, raised in Sarnia. She is a para-judoka, two-time Para-Pan Am Games silver medalist. She's got 2 silver medals from the IBSA Pan Am Championships, a bronze medalist at the World Championships, a silver medal recently at the 2020 Paralympics in Tokyo. She was a Canadian flag bearer at the 2020 Paralympics. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Priscilla Gagne. Priscilla, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging in with us. We talked to Ron.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And it was really fascinating hearing about him and his story. And wow, I would love to be a passenger in one of those cars.
I'm not so sure I would. I mean, I've ridden with some of these drivers before. They go way faster than I ever would. I'm telling you that. But the ability to have that ability to know what you're doing in the car, to handle it, to make the car work for you like he does, it is really phenomenal. So, yeah, Priscilla, I just want to add, first of all, yes, I want to talk to you about the disability that you have overcome to become an elite athlete. Tell us about that.
Sure. So I have a visual impairment. It's retinitis pigmentosa. It's a really rare form of it. And it took a long time for them to figure out what was wrong with my eyes. And growing up, I was always legally blind, and I always wanted to do what the other kids were doing. So I would roughhouse with my brother. We would do some UFC style fighting, flipping couches and tap out wrestling. And I was just another kid on the block. But then when we started school, I was restricted from joining the track team and really kind of put in a box and with a bunch of limits. And I just was searching for any tiny cracks in that box to squeak out. And sometimes I found them and sometimes I paid the price for it. But eventually, keeping that tenacity, I was introduced to Brantford at W. Ross Macdonald School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, where they have every sport imaginable and all adapted for people with vision impairments. And I excelled there, at least in the sport life, not so much academically, due to my own fault.
Yeah.
And went back to regular school, finally got diagnosed probably in my early 20s with retinitis pigmentosa, and was always running and doing sport. I was on the goalball team for a little while, and then just really missed combat. So I went to find out if they were still looking for people to join the Paralympic program. And I started judo at the age of 23 with the Paralympics in sight, pun intended.
Right. So you were 23 years old when you started judo, but you'd already, I know that in school you competed again in wrestling and as well,
Yes.
and against able-bodied people as well. So tell us about that experience, and were you at a distinct disadvantage there?
Sure. No, I don't believe I was, to be honest, because we started so with wrestling, we started still with a grip. We had an inside grip and an outside grip, and it was equal on both sides for both people. And if we ever, again, got separated, just like in judo, they'd bring us back to the center. But there was no other visually impaired female wrestlers in my division or any division really. I never competed against any other vision impaired person at any other school. And I made it to, I was so happy and thrilled, ecstatic to qualify for OFSA by winning COASA. And then I think I placed seventh in OFSA. This is a long time ago, though. It's going back half my life. But I
Yeah.
narrowly missed the podium for that. And to be able to do that in an able body community really speaks to my coaching, all the different coaches I had along the way, and the teammates I had that really supported me, and my parents, of course, who supported me too.
You mentioned that you've done the wrestling, and now you get into looking for a Paralympic sport, and judo seemed like the perfect fit. You like the
Yes.
combative side about judo, obviously. What else attracted you to the sport of judo?
Well, yes, I love the combative part of it, but I liked that I could do it just like anybody else. I love that it gave me the chance to work with everyone and anyone. Work with people that are fully sighted, all different sizes and shapes and ages. And I loved, especially once I got into it, I got to know the judo community, and it's really just one big family, and everyone's like your cousin or your brother, or they take you under their wing, and we help each other out. There's a saying that says you can't do judo alone, and it's the truth. It's an individual sport, but you can't do it alone. So you need that family of people around you to encourage you, and I really fell in love with that aspect of it, the relational aspect of it.
Speaking of not doing it alone, talk about your coach, Andre Sunday, who's how important is Andre being in your success?
Oh, he's everything. So Andre is just the most integral, compassionate, empathetic, very smart, logistical kind of a man. And he he's coached before in able body, and we were in a position where we needed a coach to come and step in. And he even though he was thought he was done coaching, he decided to take it on. And our relationship just really strengthened as coach and athlete. I trust him fully. He's such a kind man. He'll advocate for me. He believes in me, and he's very honest with me if he thinks something's not going to work or if I shouldn't do something. He's very honest about that, and he also listens very well if I have concerns or ideas. And I think that really goes a long way in the athlete coach relationship. And he's just a wonderful man, a wonderful father, wonderful husband, wonderful coach. And I'm so blessed to have him in my life.
Tell us about winning that becoming the first Paralympic judoka to win a medal, a female to win a medal at the World Championships. What was that like for you?
Oh, that was amazing. The World Championships, the first time I went, I did terribly. I lost both my fights pretty quickly. And so to come back and work hard against some of the same people and and come out with a medal was just such a reward and such a gift. It was very difficult. I went up against some people that I had never beat before and that were very strong competitors. I had to beat the person who beat me in Rio in order to secure that medal. I also had to go against a Russian who I had never beaten before. And so each fight was hard. By no means was it easy. I think I had 4 or 5 fights that day, and each one was difficult. But obviously, it turned out all right, and very
Right,
rewarding. Yeah.
right. You came so close in 2016, losing that bronze medal match, as you mentioned. Then you had to turn around 4 years later, beat that same person that you lost to. And were you determined after that loss in 2016 to make sure that you got back to Tokyo?
Absolutely. I wasn't sure if I would continue for Tokyo until after Rio when I had come so close to the bronze and and then just missed it. It just escaped my hands in the last minute of the fight. And I thought right then and there, okay, I'm not done. I didn't come this far to not get a medal. So what I thought,
Right.
what's another 4 years? And then of course it was five, but it was the right decision. And I am so glad I did it, not just because I got the medal coming in Tokyo, but just I've grown so much over this last 5 years and this last year especially. And as a person, as an athlete, and I'm so grateful and I'm so glad I followed my heart and made the right decision to continue for Tokyo.
Right. I recall the 2016 bronze medal match. You were winning the fight right up until the last few seconds, made a little mistake, and it cost you that medal. So that must be really
Yeah,
frustrating.
it was
Hmm.
disappointing,
But re
that's for sure.
Yes, but you were able to get redemption in the bronze medal at the World Championships, then in Tokyo in
Yes.
2021, the
Yeah,
2020 games.
yeah.
Uh, what was that like to get the job done and get onto that podium?
You know, I'm so grateful for the experience in Rio when we had the sold out venue and 1,000 people cheering all the time and you couldn't hear your coach and it was just a surreal moment. But Tokyo had its own beauty. We had obviously empty stands, but um, the whole world was cheering in my heart and in my head. I knew that I had a lot of people in my corner. And when competing in Tokyo, just not only getting the medal, but just to be there was a dream because of the pandemic, not knowing if it was going to happen, and then not knowing if, because of what happened at the Olympics, we didn't know if we'd be able to have the Paralympics. So, right up until the day of the opening ceremonies, it was questionable. And to be able to be there was a gift. And then to get the medal just was so rewarding. I was so grateful because of all the hard work, yes, but also because of a lot of the adversity and just difficulty emotionally, even leading up to Tokyo. To get that medal just made it all worth it for me and for everybody who was there for me and supported me and made it happen for me.
Now you had to qualify to get there. You did that nicely. Pan Am title in Calgary in 2018, and gold again 2 years later. Those tell us about the qualifying and what that was like, and getting you ready for this.
Sure. So getting ready for Tokyo 2020 was exciting. We had a strategy for every competition. I was really in my prime as an athlete and growing into myself really as a judoka and beating people I hadn't beat before, winning sometimes my favorite way, which is by strangulation. And so each competition had its beautiful gifts. And in Calgary, my father was there. It was a home crowd, so a lot of the people I train with were there, also competing. Canada made history that year, combining an able-bodied competition with a Paralympic, or I guess I should say a para competition. Hadn't been done yet, and so Canada was the first to do it, and they've been doing it ever since in other countries. So that was a huge signpost, and
Hmm.
continuing into other countries and just really building on each success and learning from each fight and just enjoying the journey along the way.
Yeah, when we I had a show with Shadi and Ken Fukumoto, and we talked about you it was after Shadi's experience, and just that you were coming up, and we talked about, and they were really gung ho about you as well, and really supportive of you guys. By combining the sports like that, it has made you a real team, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It's been such a sense of camaraderie between me and some of the other competitors that are in the able body world. Jessica Klinkay, Cat BP, they also made history this year, winning the very first medals for Canada in judo for females. And they are friends of mine and they're just beautiful hearts. They never hesitate to train with me, even though, sorry, even though I'm vision impaired. And Even though my style might be a little bit different because of that, and I weigh a little bit less than they do, they have more muscle. They never treated me any different, and we bonded over that. They have hearts of gold. They're the most wonderful people, and I've met so many people like that who don't hesitate to go with me. And when most people would, there's been quite a few who have really, really stepped up, and their character has shone through in who they are as people and as judoka. And that's a testament to integrated judo.
So what's your cat's name?
Oh, this one here, this is Zany. She's
Amy?
very small.
Okay.
She had a rough start at life, so she never grew fully. So yeah, Zany. She's very small.
Zany? Sorry,
Yeah.
did you say Zany?
Yeah, Zany.
Okay, Zany. Okay,
Yes.
very
She
nice.
was a bit zany as
She's
a
beautiful.
kitten.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
you talked about the team, and you talked about watching Jessica and Kat, winning those bronze medals. How much of that was an inspiration for you when it was your turn to go overseas?
Oh, big time. I wanted to join on that bandwagon. I wanted to make this the biggest year for them, for us, for Judo Canada, our coaches, for Canada, for the people who cheer for us. I so badly wanted to jump on that bandwagon with them and be another first in the para community. And so the three of us doing that all in the same summer is just incredible. It's such yeah, they were big inspirations to me. And like I said, it couldn't have happened to better people. I'm so happy for them.
It's tremendous. You guys did such an amazing job. But getting ready for this, you've got to deal with the global pandemic, and how does that affect your preparation? And how did you have to adjust? And what did you do to adjust? And how did you get yourself ready?
Well, that was actually the hardest part, probably one of the hardest seasons of my life, was trying to figure out how to train through this pandemic. Because yes, our sports are integrated. However, we have different funding pools. So we have the able body who are funded, and then we have a different pool for the para. So when it came down to being able to train unmasked and in bubbles, the Olympic team was able to have 22 or 23 athletes and 2 coaches unmasked in a huge training area. And what was difficult was there was not the same provisions made for the Paralympic team, so we still had to train in small groups of 3 and 4, and with a mask on. And we didn't have the funding to travel or to get repeated COVID testing in order to train in a larger group. And to top that, they closed the borders, and my coach lives on the border of Ontario, so he wasn't able to see me for quite a long time. And it wasn't until we applied for funding with Own the Podium, and I'm so grateful for Own the Podium, OTP. They gave us enough funding to go travel, and we were able to go train in Texas and do a competition, kind of like a warm-up, first competition in a year and a half in Great Britain. And then again, traveled to Calgary to continue training without a mask and with multiple training partners. And then in Lethbridge, and then visiting Calgary's dojos before coming back when they had finally removed the restrictions at the INS Quebec. We were finally able to train properly. So that journey was very difficult. We've been basically on the road since May 29th and trying to figure out to get the best training possible, after having not trained properly for over a year and a half. And coming back from hip surgery, that was a bit of an obstacle too, to get that strength back in my legs. Because the surgery was a year and a half ago in June, or a year ago in June. So trying to figure out, rehab that while trying to peak for the games was very interesting. And then, of course, injuring my elbow in Great Britain just 2 months before the games and having to train on an injured elbow. Just everything looked pretty gloomy, natural by the natural standpoint. It just looked like odds were completely against us. And trying to digest that and remain positive and optimistic. And I can say I never doubted. And I know my coach probably had his doubts that it was possible, but he never let that show. He just put everything 100% behind me to make it work. And it obviously paid off.
Well, it sure did, and you had all those obstacles. I mean, the inability to travel, whereas other countries could, and the inability to train properly, where other countries did. Having to travel, having to, like, you became a real road warrior, and then of course traveling out to the other side of the world to compete. And so, what was it like when you finally, knew that you had sewn up that silver medal?
All those emotions, made it worth it. All of the adversity of having to train separately from the Olympic team, not because of the Olympic team, not because they wanted, but just the powers that be, not being able to do that, and then being able to secure the silver medal was just such a moment for me of, see, I told you I could make it, and we did it. Unfortunately, without some support of certain people, that would have been so cool. But you know what? We made it regardless, and this is just the beginning. We're gonna just continue to blow people away and continue to show what we can do as a para community, and hopefully raise more funding so that this type of situation, if COVID continues and this pandemic continues, hopefully we can be a part of the group next time around, and be a part of the provisions that are made.
Well, you certainly been leading the way for the para community. In fact, you led the way for the Canadian para team into Tokyo as the flag bearer. Tell us about that experience and what was that like for you?
Oh my goodness, that was such a surprise, and I was so excited. I've never been able to go to the opening ceremonies because it's always the same day as the weigh-ins. So we can never, I'm weighing in, they're doing the opening ceremony. But for Tokyo, they pushed judo back a few days so that we could attend. I don't know if that's why they did it, but being the birthplace of judo, I'm pretty sure it had something to do with it. So we were able to not only attend the opening ceremonies, but I was asked to be the flag bearer, and which was a huge honor all by itself. But then when you add the fact that none of the others were able to attend because of COVID restrictions for Team Canada, I was walking on behalf of all of my teammates, 128 people, including some aides and coaches and things and athletes, of course. And so I was just so honored to have them walk with me in my heart and in my mind, and to just make them proud. The whole time I was walking, I was imagining them with me, screaming and cheering, and shoulders back, chest out, head up, and just so proud to be part of the Canadian delegation. And so that's what I was envisioning as I was walking with the flag. So they, in this sense, they walked with me the whole time.
All those people that walked with you all the way there, and keeping them in mind. And of course, you talked about. I know that your faith has played a big role in your life and your success. And tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. My faith, without it, I wouldn't have made it through this year for sure. I would probably have stopped judo. I probably would not have continued on to persevere through it all. My faith has been such a source of strength, of encouragement, of joy, and even in the midst of the darkness of what we had to face, I still had so many great moments of joy. And my faith community, unfortunately, that also got impacted, which contributed to my struggles. Was they closed down all of the churches and we weren't able to meet. It was all virtual, which is great. I'm so happy we got to at least do that. But it's different when you're in person and they can hug you and smack you on the back and say, "Hey, keep going," compared to just a telephone call, basically, because I can't see the screen, so it's I don't get to see them or smell them or touch them. I just hear them. So that part was hard, but it carried me through, and I'm so grateful to my faith community who are always there for me as well, and remembering that it's about more than just me. And which is why I didn't stop, because I thought if I stop now, if I quit now, what does that say to the rest of the world? What message do I have to give to them? When it gets hard, work a little harder, and when it gets really difficult, just quit, and everybody will be okay with it because they get it. That's not okay with me, No, we want to persevere to the end. We want to reach our dreams. We want to blow past every barrier and show the world what we're capable of doing, and that they can do the same thing. And my faith is what gave me the strength to actually do that.
Right, barrier schmarrier. You blown through them all the way through your life, your entire life. So now, okay. So what's next? Paris is 2024. You've had the
Yes.
hip surgery, the elbow injury. You've had all the injuries. You're going to be 38 in 2024. Are you going to hang around?
I mean, we'll see. They're changing the vision classification, so I'll only have to compete against B1s. And just to give you an idea, in
Right.
Tokyo, I didn't compete against any B1s at all. So in Paris, it'll be just B1s, which will be exciting. So I really want to hang on until then. Training will probably look a little bit different. I'm probably gonna have to negotiate a new contract to see what we can come up with because I'm getting older. As you said, I'll be 38, and I have other things between here and then that I really want to focus on and work on with my career. And I'm excited to see some of that happen now. But I do want to continue to train to some degree. And then my plan is to continue training, but then really focus on training when it gets to the qualifications tournaments. And so that way I can have both my career and my passion of competing and experiencing what it's like to compete against other actual visually impaired slash blind people as opposed to partially sighted or fully sighted. So I'm looking forward to that big
Right.
time. And for no other reason than that, I would want to continue for Paris.
Right. Yes. That's awesome. So just clarify B1. The B1 category means you're blind. You're competing
Yep,
against some people who have partial vision, and so that probably
correct.
puts you at a bit of a disadvantage, I would assume. I mean, you know.
Yeah. I did. I mean, some other people that watched the competitions, because they're all over, they're on YouTube and different places. They've commented on they can see the other person watching my feet or looking at cues around
Hmm.
them. And obviously, I don't have that advantage to do that. And so it'll be really exciting to compete against people that are in the same category as me and same level of vision and difficulty as me, so that it makes it a little bit more equal, I think, and I'm excited to see how good I will be against people like me, you know?
I certainly like your chances, even at the slightly advanced age of 38 for a
Slightly.
judoka, but it was slightly advanced. But tell us about your career. You mentioned your career, but tell us what about your career.
Sure. So, right now I'm currently writing a book. I'm just about halfway through it, and I'm really hoping to get it published soon. I mean, I have to find a publisher, and I know that's difficult, but that's on my list of things to do, and one of my goals. But also, I'm dipping into something I've never tried before, and it's on camera reporting for an organization, for a company that they focus on people living with disabilities. Their whole network is based off of that. So I'm really excited to work with them and sign the contract with them and see what it's like to be on the opposite end of the camera.
Oh man, you'll do a marvelous job. Trust me, you'll do a
Oh,
fantastic job. Um, that's that. And tell the book is it fiction, nonfiction? Is it a life story? What it tell us about it?
oh, it's a life story. Yeah. So I kind of little hint. I want to write more than one, but right now the one I'm writing is more not so kind of a memoir, but I don't know if I would classify it just as a memoir. I'm only 35, so but there's a whole other stuff, a lot of things to write about later, but it's just basically my journey from, being born with a vision impairment, the journey of the diagnosis and journey of school. And it's funny, I've got some funny incidents, lots of accidents that happen and hospital visits, and then going more into discovering sports for the visually impaired and discovering the Paralympics, and then going to college and trying to get a career in addictions counseling and not being able to find work in that largely because of my vision and liability. And so the struggle of that, and then going into my Tokyo and Rio, just the Paralympic journey will be probably the ending of that particular book. But I'm also taking a children's writing class right now. I really want to do a children's book. And I'm also looking at writing. I've written a few songs that I'd like to. I'm not a singer, but I want to sell them to artists who do sing. And so that's another project also, very, and those, so like I said, the book is just the beginning. I hope anyway.
Well, I can't look forward to reading the book, Priscilla, and I certainly will,
Thank
and
you.
looking forward to that coming out. Thank you for being on the show. I know the judo community is extremely proud of you, as is the entire nation. And
Well, thank you.
you're amazing. Thank you so much for being on the
Thank you
show.
so
Appreciate
much.
you being here.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for promoting parasports.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Slow play. It's a slippery slope. First you go looking for that lost ball, and then everything goes sideways. There are a lot of golfers on the course. Make certain of your point of entry, look quickly, and move on. Remember, we're here for a good time, not a long time. Find anything, Bob?
Not yet. Hi, Joe Tilley here from Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Did you know that in 1965, Canada's George Chavella was robbed of the WBA Heavyweight Championship of the World? That's right, Chavella clearly and soundly beat Ernie Terrell for the title at Maple Leaf Gardens, but was denied the championship by a mob-backed decision. The crown should have belonged to George. Now we're trying to get George, who just turned 84 and is suffering from dementia, that well-deserved belt. How can we make this possible? Simple. Head over to WBAboxing.com and file your complaint. The more we complain, the more likely it will be that we force the commission to do something about it. Let's do it, folks. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by...
Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAonline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's hpibet.com.
All right, time now for my COSA Swiss pick of the week. Last week, I went to Mohawk for Tuesday night's 7th race. I went with the A-horse, Stonebridge Strong, but it turned out to be a pretty weak pick, folks. He never got it going, but Ida Hanover with Jody Jameson in the buggy answered the bell. I did manage to pick that 5-7 exacta part of the 3-horse box. Didn't pay much, though, just $12.90. This week, I'm going to Tuesday night's 4th race at Mohawk. And how can I not take Homie Joe, the number 9 horse driven by Sylvain Filion? Homie Joe has had some success on the home track. Let's go $5 win place. And I'll also try boxing Homie Joe in the exacta 159. My bankroll is now at $144, down from $200. Better pull up my socks. For all the racing updates, visit COSA TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to hpibet.com for your wagering options. Well, we had an upset in the Rico Woodbine Mile. 8-1 shot Town Cruise made his first stakes victory, a massive one. The 6-year-old Ontario-bred son of Town Prize captured the Rico Mile, featuring a purse of over $1.12 million. Ridden by Daisuke Fukumoto and trained by and co-owned by Brandon Greer, Town Cruise took the early lead in the field of 10 horses, and he would never relinquish that lead, holding off a couple of challenges along the way over the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Let's pick up the call of the finish from track announcer Robert Geller.
As they go inside the 5/8, they've drawn off to lead by 5 lengths. Then came change of control on the inside as Avies Flatter. And starting to make some ground is also Space Traveller. A length and a half Olympic runner, Raging Bull. Over on the inside, March to the Arch. 2 lengths away is Rider Comet, second last. And a length and a half away last is Set Piece. Town Cruise continues to roll as they go inside the 3/8. Leads by 2.5, Duke of Hazzard. Running on well is Avies Flatter. On the outside, Space Traveller. Then change of control up the inside. March to the Arch. Rider Comet swings wide, as does Raging Bull. Set Piece is still well back. Now they're coming. Avies Flatter after Town Cruise with Duke of Hazzard. And right down the outside, Rider Comet. Olympic run of the centre. Set Piece is getting to work now. The leader remains Town Cruise. Town Cruise on the inside in front. A cavalry charge down the outside. Space Traveller and Rider Comet and Raging Bull. But Daisuke Fukumoto stole this year's Rico Wood by mile with Town Cruise. 2.5 lengths to Space Traveller. Behind them, March to the Arch and Raging Bull the outside.
All right. The Rico Woodbine Mile is part of the Breeders' Cup Win and You're In program. So Town Cruise has qualified for the $2 million mile at Del Mar in November. The 110.7 track to return $1,766.30 on a $2 ticket. Yes, Daisuke Fukumoto, the winner, not Fuku. I called Ken Fukushima Fukumoto earlier. Okay, not sure what's it's going to take for the Blue Jays to sign Robbie Ray and Marcus Semien, but they'd better give it their best shot. All Semien did this past weekend is pound out his 40th home run of the season. He's the first Blue Jays second baseman to whack 40 big flies in a season. In fact, he's only the 5th second sacker to hit the 40 mark in all of Major League history. That's kind of a big deal, folks. Also, Semien and Vlad Guerrero are the 4th pair of Toronto teammates to hit 40 home runs in a season. The last to do it, Josh Donaldson and Jose Bautista back in 2015. Ray might just be your Cy Young Award winner. That's a guy who deserves to get paid as well as Semien. Hyunjin Ryu has been placed on a 10-day injured list with neck tightness. Might explain why he's been struggling. And just to clarify, yes, Vlad Guerrero is your American League MVP. Sure, Ohtani can pitch, but the Angels have shut him down for the year. Guerrero leads in every important offensive category: homers, runs, average, slugging percentage, OPS. His club is in a playoff race. The Angels are not. This is a no-brainer, folks. Vlad is your MVP. Well, a couple of 3 and 2 clubs squared off in the CFL. Argos at Mosaic Stadium in Regina. Rough Riders coming off a couple of tough losses to Winnipeg, but Cody Fajardo got them back on the rails in this one. Fajardo hits Kean Schaefer-Baker. Big guy does a rest. He breaks tackles, bounces off defenders, takes it in for the touchdown as the Riders roll 30-14. Nick Arbuckle had a good game for the Argos, but had some passes dropped. The Ticats bounced the Stampeders. They're tied with the Argos for first in the East at 3-3. The Lions dumped the Alouettes, and the Bombers buried the Elks to improve to 6-1. There were some cool charity golf tournaments this week. Nice to be with the MNP boys at the Oshawa Golf Club for the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce event. We had the Graham Kirkland team at the Canadian Junior Golf Association event at Lebovic. And it was awesome to hook up with my old pal Stu Bundy for the Bowmanville Rotary.
Whoa! There it is. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the one, the only Scoop Bundy. Look at that guy go. One of the greatest golfers of all time.
Oh, God, no.
Here at Newcastle Golf Course. It's the Bowmanville Rotary Tournament for the Bowmanville Hospital. These guys are good. This is gonna be scary good. Peter's at the tee deck now. Oh, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be the greatest day you've ever seen, with probably the greatest team ever assembled. I love golf. Oh, there's your long drive.
Right there's down the middle. Peter!
Woo! Hard to believe that went 480 yards. And we close with a look at the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. I highly recommend them all. A reminder that the show is now available on Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcast, and Pocket Cast, as well as the Spanglish Network and Zingo TV. Also, like and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Thanks once again to Ron Fellows for being on the show, and Priscilla Gagne. Great to have you guys on. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next week when former NHLer Jim Thompson drops by. We'll see you then. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by
Brian Driven Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Brought to you by MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business consulting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the needs of our clients in the private, public, and non-for-profit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to doing business and personalized strategies to help people and organizations succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Toronto, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, our team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca to learn more. Make your next getaway a spectacular one at this luxury cottage on Rice Lake near Bewdley from Verona Real Estate Group. Perfect for a large or extended family retreat, an ideal location for any corporate morale-boosting getaway, employee bonding session, a week here and you're set. A beautiful, spacious building for up to 10 guests, featuring 5 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, state-of-the-art kitchen facilities, and more. Enjoy swimming, excellent fishing options, just an hour and a half from Toronto. Book for any and all seasons. Fully winterized, ice fishing, cross-country ski trails, and downhill skiing available nearby. Book today by calling Amir at 647-657-6571 or email amir@veronarealestategroup.com.